And they are, they are. When I say they are murdering, it is gory. It is very in your face. It is very matter of fact. These people are being murdered, hunted. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Blockbuster Review. If you don't know what that is, it is where I play a single game of Tetris Marathon and try to review a film before I get to 150 lines or I get a game over. I don't start talking about the movie until it says go. So The Hunt is a film that I was excited to see because there was all this controversy around it, and that's not why I was excited to see it. I wanted to see what the controversy was about. I had heard there was some, political reason for the upset, but I thought it was more because of just the insane violence. I had no idea that it was because of actual politicalized statements in the movie. It's hard for me to explain exactly what about the movie is political without going into the specifics, which I will right now. So the plot is bunch of people wake up in a forest. They don't know where they're at. They got gags in their mouth. They're not sure what's going on. They find a box out in the middle of that field. And they open the box, and it's filled with weapons. Someone sees that that box also had the key to their gags, so they start opening up those. And then they start getting shot at. Just people going down quick. There's mentions of this possibly being something related to something called Manorgate, which they don't talk about exactly right away. The movie opens up with a text message chain. They're doing that a lot in movies nowadays because people, have cell phones and text messaging, and a lot of stuff gets done in those text message chains. While I do a horrible move there that might be my undoing. I don't know why I got so dramatic. Of course it won't be. But the text message chain is obviously from a group of friends, and they have some choice words to say about the president, which is implied by what they're talking about to be President Trump. And then there's a mention of, well, at least the manor's coming up, and the idea is like a joke that they hunt down deplorables, which was at one point, and I think still is, a name for Trump supporters that was coined, I believe, by Hillary Clinton, which the Trump supporters then kind of accepted as a badge of honor, and it's a huge thing. I honestly don't think I have to explain it, but then it shows that basically happening. It's people being hunted. You find out pretty quick that they are a group of people that start talking about something called Manorgate. A lot of them are kind of what you would assume were stereotypical, some would say red staters, some would say conservative, some would say alt-right in some aspects. Some of them look like nothing descript at all until the very end, where you see photos of them in other lights. But the point is, these people are of a specific political leaning, and they're being hunted for sport. One of the characters is a woman. She doesn't really say her name, but the people doing the hunting call her Snowball. That kind of comes up through the story. Oh man, I'm already at spoilers. And essentially, it's about this one character basically crawling her way through these waves and waves of liberal-minded people who take moments to try and push their point to these conservative folk. It's hard to explain without you knowing what I'm talking about, but basically there are moments where they mention stuff about global warming, they mention stuff about gun ownership and gun rights, and they are, they are, when I say they are murdering, it is gory. It is very in your face. It is very matter of fact. These people are being murdered, hunted, and they're given no mercy. And it's kind of like it's turning it on its head, because you see these movies where like people are being hunted for sport or people are being murdered, and usually it's kind of like the perpetrators are like kind of these, like, you don't want to be offensive, but you know, they're backwoods people. They're not well dressed, see, and I'm talking like I'm trying. I don't want to offend people, and that's like the entire point of the movie. I think the movie exists to possibly offend you and then make you question why you're offended. Like, I watched it, and I was kind of shocked that it was, oh wow, it's these like very liberal-minded, very intelligent, thoughtful, big vocabulary people, but they are quite literally just mowing down and murdering other human beings, which is very odd. Especially, it goes against their very ideals of people taking, what's the word? Putting, I'm losing my thoughts. It flies in the face of them caring about other people, because, you know, the idea of like liberal policies for welfare, healthcare, taking more sensible gun laws so that people don't get hurt, and then they are mowing down people. It's very confusing. Sometimes they're poisoning them. They're being blown to pieces. It's one of those movies where the violence is visceral and crazy, and the movie is badass, because these people are like getting through these very violent things. And for the first, I don't want to spoil that. I want you to see this movie, because I want you to ask yourself, if you're offended, why? I would imagine a person who is watching this who is right-leaning is offended because they're being portrayed in a negative light by the characters that are being murdered. How they're being portrayed, how they're being, their dialogue, their look, and they're probably saying, I don't look like that. And the people that are left-leaning, because I'll be honest, I'm a more liberal-minded dude. I was kind of offended. Like, I don't think anyone who believes these things would act like this. But then the end of the movie, you find out that the reason these people have set up this very gory, very horrible thing is because they used to be high-powered, respected heads of companies, but that text message got out when someone got hacked, and there were people out there who believed it was real. Not very far off from what goes on now, where something hits the internet, people think it's an actual thing, the conspiracies start, the people with the, I mean, you don't want to say it, the fake news, people with all these, and one of the characters has a podcast, and he says, I know what I'm talking about, I have a podcast, this is Manorgate, where the liberals take people and murder them, and it's like, okay, having a podcast doesn't make you an expert in anything. I think any podcast should tell you that immediately, unless those people have been, you know, school for the things they're talking about. Having a podcast doesn't mean shit. And you find out the only reason this is happening to these people is because this rumor got started and they lost their jobs. So they said to each other, let's fucking do it then. They took away our livelihood. They made this big thing that isn't even true. Let's make it true. Which is kind of like, doesn't that defeat the purpose? Because then it is true, and that's what the main character Crystal says, and there's a big twist about that character, but I'm not going to tell you what it is, because I want you to see this movie. I want you to go out and see The Hunt, and I want you to ask yourself why you're offended. Now, if you're squeamish just about oh my gosh, I might lose this game because I don't want to end right now. I don't want to end it right now. If you're squeamish just because of gore, there's a lot of gore. You're gonna have to get used to that, but you should see it. The Hunt, awesome. Very violent, very visceral, very intense, and has something to say about politics and the way you think about yourself and the way you think about others. That's why you should see it. I don't think I explained it well enough. Anyway, have a good one. Watch The Hunt.